So I tried to pause or I tried to mute the microphone, but it did not work. It did not. And then I don't have to sneeze anymore. I probably will again soon. Oh, those are such cute pot smiles. I love it. Very cute. Um, it would be perfect for a cactus. Cactus soil is dryish. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Alright, back to the weaving. Accidentally pulled the edge in. Pull that back out. And figure out what shed is the correct one. It's the F shed. And give it a bit more tension because that does not feel tight enough. You like the bat? I'm glad. You like this one in particular. That's good. I hope that you find a way to kind of replicate it to be able to make bats that you enjoy. Have you figured out like what you specifically like about this particular bat that you could maybe replicate so that you get one that you like when you make them? Oh, my nose. Why so itch? As long as you said that makes sense, let us know how it goes for you. You might have to try it. I have a lot of rubbish wool that I can use for this project. Yay! Wait, I'm confused actually. Geo, you posted pics. All right, let's see. Oh, very pretty. Oh wait, so that's the same bat and yarn that came from the bat. That has so much more like yellow and dark blue than the bat looks like it has. Very cool. I need to get a new mouse. I have an extra mouse. It came with my computer. This one, the scroll wheel broke. I have to dig up the other mouse and then send this one off in a Viking funeral because I've used it for like more than 5 years. Needs a proper send off. You pulled strips off to spin, right? So you had so yeah, you got the variation. Variegation. No, I think variation's the right word. Yeah, that's something that I really like about spinning bats is like depending where you that you can kind of play around with the color and stuff. That's what I love about spinning is that even if you have like a lump of fiber, like a amount of fiber, you can still choose whether you're gonna spin it randomly or whether you're gonna like do like a gradient, light to dark, rainbow colors or whatever. Or if you want to just kind of mix everything together, I like that there's that option and that creativity involved. Oh, this is really loose thread. Okay. Probably broke somewhere, but as long as it is sturdy enough to just like do that, then I'm gonna see if I can grab it, pull it tight down here. Okay. There we go. Oh, that is adorable. I love that. That is very cute. Oh, and the Cheviot is gorgeous too. The grays. I love just seeing like very slight kind of color variations for sure. Not too higgly piggly. What even is higgly piggly? Smiles, yes. Dev. Do you know my rubbish wall? I think I found a project for it. Yay! I'm happy, Smiles. Um, I'm super like curious if it's like salvageable or not. Oh, so I've been so last night I got back a bit early. I was too late to stream, but it was too early to sleep, so I did do some dyeing. I got another batch of wool dyed, and then I got some spinning done while I was waiting for the dye to set. Um I spun that what I was spinning last month at the end of last month before I started doing the rainbow stuff. I was spinning some shearling Shetland wool that that's kind of like a project that I've been waiting on for a while. Just and I was noticing, wow, the wool is really matted, like compared to what I was used to with this wool. The other one was like super matted and unpleasant to comb in comparison, which is interesting because when I was working with it before, I felt like I was having a really easy time with it. But now I feel like I'm having a really hard time with it because of how matted and greasy it is. So that's an interesting thing. Um, you need something to do with your combing straps. Yeah, for sure. And now you're washing some Cotswold. Very exciting. Um, Very cool. So I dyed now half of the wool for my other rainbow dyeing project. This one's I'm dyeing the colors separately so that I don't need to worry that if one doesn't come out, I can just, over dye it and get it a bit better rather than having to like just live without that color or whatever. Um, I don't have to dye any combos. I'm just dyeing the colors individually. Yeah, and I've gotten 3 of them done. One of them dry. 2 of them are kind of sitting out waiting to dry. Broken thread there. And I've actually started doing the I think Gio, I already told you I've started doing like little hexies. So now I have something to do with my wool scraps. Better than throwing them out, I certainly believe. Um, so yes, I'm happy with that. Scraps on my thing somehow. This one is like super weak. try and just tighten that up a little bit. Surprisingly, it's still holding on quite well, despite being extremely thin. Yeah, I just pulled it apart there, so hopefully that'll be okay though. Pexy Twins. Yeah, I'm definitely not following like the correct pattern, the correct instructions for making it, but I'm happy with the way it's turning out, and that is what matters. Um, and I have somewhere to put my scraps, so that's important as well. It's probably gonna be like maybe like a mattress cover or something. Something I will lay on rather than putting on top of me. Depends how big it ends up being. It might just have to be like a little pillow or like a cuddly thing. Um, yeah, for sure. Um, definitely. I am not super um experienced when it comes to like sales. I'm really bad at promoting myself, I think. Speaking of, hey guys, check out my shop. I sell things and you can donate money to me and keep the stream going. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I haven't quite gotten the hang of actually getting people to give me money for things, you know? I turned down a job the other day. Basically, a friend of my roommate, her coworker, she made a pair of like chunky socks on like a knitting loom. And I think it was her coworker. And now the coworker is demanding more socks. And it's like, and she was like, "So Dev, can you make some socks for my coworker? Because I really don't want to." And I'm like, are you going to charge your coworker for them? Because people can't just demand stuff, right? And she's like, "No, well, I want to be nice to the coworker." And I'm like, "Well, I don't feel good. Like, I don't want to charge my roommate's friend because it's not my roommate's friend. Like, my roommate's friend is the one who's having things demanded of them, right? But I'm not making socks for somebody I've never even met, you know, who's just demanding them. That's rude. That's not okay. Apparently, this person has disability, but I don't care. Like, you still, like, it's not, in my opinion, appropriate to treat someone differently in that way. You know, maybe be a little more understanding. Like, I get that you have a disability, but you can't just demand things. But not to just be like, "Oh, you're disabled, therefore I'm gonna just, you know, accept your demands or whatever," right? So it's one of those like, so she offered, so I first she offered if I, or she asked me if I would make them, and I said, "You know what, I charge for the things that I make. If your coworker wants to buy them, then I can make them for her, but I'm not going to just make them for free." And then the friend said, "Well, I'll pay you." And I'm like, that just feels wrong. That feels bad. Um, in the sense of like, if I if I make money, right? Like, because if she was making them for her coworker, then she wouldn't have to pay, right? But since her coworker's kind of demanding it and she's not able, she doesn't have the time to make them, and she's trying to get me to do it, like, it doesn't feel right to take money from her because she's not getting money for it. Um, she's just kind of being forced into it, right? So I had an opportunity to make money and I didn't feel right about it. And I was like, "Do not give me money." So Miles, the spammage, the intense spammage, all the things. Drunken Dwarf says, "Has anyone tried a Facebook shop? I was just trying to go through it on my other screen and my Facebook commerce account was denied. Something about not having a following large enough to prove trustworthiness." Okay. I've tried to set up a Facebook shop and it didn't tell me why it wouldn't work. It just said it didn't work. Try again later. Um, so that could be why I was denied. Um, I have put stuff up on my own personal Facebook shop for selling. Like I had a large stash of yarn that I was selling for a very good price. Nobody bought it. I've been trying to sell some of my like secondhand clothes, still really good quality on Facebook Market. Similarly, no interest whatsoever. Um, I did try to sell a broken accordion on Facebook. It was broken. Somebody bought it for like $30. You know, that worked. But aside from that, I have had not very good uh, success buying stuff, or sorry, selling stuff on Facebook Market. Buying stuff's another story. I've gotten some good deals and good purchases, but I almost wonder if Facebook Market is better for buyers than sellers. Because in my selling experience, I have not had very much good experience, and then it seems like I'm almost, you know, they're offering it for this price, but as I get good deals on stuff on the Facebook Marketplace. In my experience, I do have a friend though who sells Pokemon cards through Facebook on the Facebook Marketplace, and he makes a living off of that. So I'm not really sure. But of course, that's not like craft stuff. I have never actually bought or sold craft things. Not bought or successfully sold craft things on Facebook Market. Um, and yeah, I wasn't able to do it for my like business account. Smile says, I don't think it's bad. It would end up being a gift from the coworker paying. But that's the thing, right? Is that she doesn't, my roommate's friend doesn't want, you know, she never like offered, she doesn't want to make these socks. She feels like she's being pressured to make these socks. And because she doesn't have the time to do it, you know, she asked me to do it. And I was just like, but you shouldn't be pressured. Like, I'm not okay with it. I mean, it was very much like a personal decision. I just not knowing like the entire situation as well, of course. It just the way that it was kind of presented was like, this doesn't feel right. I don't want to just like take money from somebody for, you know, something that they feel like they can't say no to. Um, how am I finding Ko-fi as opposed to Etsy? I like Ko-fi because it doesn't require any fees. When I sell an item, they take a small percentage of the sale. I actually forget what the percentage is, but it's not big. But I can list items and sell items, and the shop and Ko-fi only takes a small percentage of the sale price, um, which makes it a lot um, better than Etsy, where like, because I've had yarn up on Ko-fi for months that hasn't sold, and yeah, I can keep it up because it hasn't sold, and I don't get charged, which is to me very important. I hate the idea of having to pay out of pocket just to have something be listed, but there's a lot less traffic to Ko-fi. A lot fewer people know what it is or how to kind of there's less discoverability and stuff like that. Drunken Dwarf says socks ain't free. Don't pressure coworkers because your feet are cold. Exactly. And like again, like this person might be disabled, but you know they still live in a capitalist society. You can't just expect free things from people, and you certainly shouldn't, you know, social pressure someone into some giving you something for free. It's not like that's not okay. That's exploitative. Um, you know, there are other ways, you know, if she'd asked or whatever. But the friend had kind of said no, it was like I'm being pressured, like I have to make these, or like I think, you know, and I said well it was like, you know, and she's trying to do a nice thing, but for the coworker, but I just feel like it's just not a situation that I want to perpetuate, right? What percentage of the sale? Okay, I'll have to figure that out. Kofi. Log in. I should log in automatically. Yep. No, go away. Go to my swap. Oh, it doesn't say at the shop. What if I view it? Where does it say? So at the top of the page it says, we don't take a cut of your donations and we hate ads, but upgrade to enjoy cool features and support the app's development. Here we go. So if you get gold, no fees on commission or shop sales. What are the regular fees though? I don't know. I know that I was able to read it easily. It was very easy to figure it out when I like signed up and started listing things. It said it directly, but now I'm like, where is it? Maybe it's account and billing. It might just say it somewhere, but no. Why? Why don't I know? I don't know. I can't find it. 5%, says Drunken Dwarf, unless you have the subscription. And the subscription is cheap. It's only $5 a month. So, yes, that is a good link. If you use memberships, commissions, or shop and don't have the subscription, you pay a 5% fee for the payments. And so for me, when I don't have even one sale every month, although I would like that to change. But when I don't have a subscription and I don't have sales, then I end up being more financially benefiting by being able to keep my things listed without having to pay to keep them listed. Unlike Etsy, it doesn't force you to pay. And then if I did start selling so much that 5% fee would be over $6, then I could just sign up for a membership and I'd still only be paying $6, which is cheaper than Etsy for sure. And I'd still have my and then I'd be making better money. Disability is not an excuse to be an arse. Yes. Gio, you have to make a Facebook shop? Yeah, I should do as well. Smile says, see how they specify 0% on one-off donations? So if someone sets up a subscription donation, they take a percentage. I think so, but like I don't think that it's let's see. I don't know actually. Let's see, subscriptions. Membership? So yeah, I don't think that there is a subscription. So you can do commissions and shop and memberships. And so the memberships, I believe that it does take a percentage, but it's not the language isn't confusing. So you're not going to think that you're doing a donation when you're doing a membership. Ko-fi looks like a better deal than Etsy. Only difference is that Etsy has more traffic. Exactly. Etsy has more traffic, better discoverability, and I think a lot of people don't know that Ko-fi has a shop option. So there's also that. Like, people who go to Ko-fi, they're like, what's the difference between this and Patreon? Well, there is a difference. It is kind of it's more of like an everything in one place. Also, I really don't like, I've mentioned this before, but the way Patreon's set up to notify you of subscriptions when you're the person that people are subscribing to, it's actually kind of hard to tell, or at least it was for me. I still don't know. Like, I think somebody subscribed for a month, because so you can subscribe at a certain time, but then the money's not taken out of your account until the end of the month. Uh, right? So you can subscribe at any point in the month, and then you're billed at the end of the month. But it's not super obvious to tell who's actually been billed. Like, it's hard to go into it and be like, okay, I see that you subscribed this month, but have you actually paid, or have you just kind of said you're going to pay but then kind of cancel it at some point, right? Because Patreon kind of allows for that, and I don't really know how to kind of read it. It's confusing. So I'm worried that, like, yeah, I don't get how Patreon works, and I don't trust it to tell me in a easily understandable way. So instead I use, well, ones that I can trust, so that I make sure that I'm not, accidentally ripping anyone off. Um, People trust Etsy, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Swings and roundabouts. Etsy, worse deal, more traffic, more people seeing your stuff, which is why you're on Etsy. It's all down to what you're looking for. Yeah. I'm thinking I might try Etsy out for like a month or two and see if I get any sales, but it's definitely one of those, like, I'll have to be really, really careful with the way it's with the subscription and everything. Like, if I end the subscription or whatever to Etsy, then yeah. I don't like that I have to spend money to make money. Basically, I've already spent so much money on materials. Now I have to do a monthly fee for no guarantee of moving stock. Um, Drunken Dwarf has I mean, technically it would be fans. um but yeah, that's definitely a thing about the Etsy being more trustworthy. Um, I mean, if you do a PayPal business, you can literally get your money back if the thing isn't sent to you. Um, but I think a lot of people just don't trust it. Yeah, Drunken Dwarf, you might want to do a little research before setting that up. But good luck. Good luck on your OnlyFans dedicated to fans. Smuzz, I would say have one of each and only link to the Ko-fi on your social media. Maybe. I mean, I would link to the Etsy. Like, if I had an Etsy, because I think it costs money to list things on Etsy anyway, right? So, like, it wouldn't really. As long as there are things on Etsy, I will have them be. Oh my gosh. Okay, so listing things. That's sorry. Listing things on Ko-fi. Actually, I don't know how it is on other sites. I think I had trouble doing it on. It's like, it takes a long time. It takes like half an hour to write out a whole description, even if you're just copy pasting to do all the, like, everything with the photography and all that stuff. actually takes a decent amount of time to um to set up just one sale. Little Miss Sunny, welcome on in. Thank you so much for the follow. Do tell us about yourself if you are so inclined. And if you're just here to lurk or gotta run, then we're so happy that you came to check us out and follow. You love my Totoro shirt. Thank you. I don't really wear white very much, so I barely ever wear this shirt. But I got it at a thrift store and I love it. And I wore it to an anime convention this weekend, uh, and it's still pretty clean, so I decided to wear it today. And I haven't spilled coffee on it once. I just knock on wood. I haven't spilled coffee on it yet. Hopefully never. Likely eventually. But yes, I love it, and I found it at a thrift store, and I'm super happy about it. It's definitely one of those hydrate and posture check. Okay, I'm also gonna grab some coffee, so I will be back in about 5 minutes with some water and some coffee. I am back. I made an imposter check. Okay, I have water. It's in a coffee cup, but it's water, I promise. And hello, Sherby. How are you doing today? Wow, you guys have been like talking so much. Oh my gosh. Little Miss Sunny, I think I saw you say that you don't usually see people on a loom. I love loom. I keep going onto loom streams and not getting not getting to um actually watch them on the loom because they're doing dancing or they're doing something else, something more like something fun for sure. But I'm like, you came here for weaving. Why are you not weaving? I've been just I've been lied to. Sorry, yeah, I'll explain what in a second. Little Miss Sunny, I did see what you posted on the Discord. Super cute. I love them. Um um, all right, words. And yes, they, them, because I present as female, assigned female at birth, but do personally see myself as more masculine, except in terms of presentation. Um, which, can be confusing to some people, so I just go with like they, them, he is fine. She, I just feel a little like uncomfortable with because I really don't see myself as a girl. I see myself as a human being who wears makeup and likes knitting. Um, uh, oh, I thank you, Sherby. And then yes, so da da da, I was taking time. Okay, so basically, the apartment that I have, I got it basically 2 months ago, 2 months and 5 days at this point. We moved in, and it has some issues. It has some real issues. So when I clean, I don't like to use like harsh chemicals. I like my hands to, still have feeling in them. Um, and I use like a paper towel. Sometimes I'll use like the scrubby side of a sponge. But usually I just use some like cleaner paper towel, put the cleaner, wait a minute or two for it to kind of soak in and get the dirt, and then clean it. This apartment, it's like I scrub, like I try to clean the wall, the paint flakes off. I try to clean the caulking between the wall and the floor. The caulking comes off and there's dirt underneath the caulking, which is why it doesn't stick. I try and clean the bathtub. The bathtub finish comes off. Like the layer of like whatever that makes the bathtub shiny comes off with like bathroom cleaner, like bathtub cleaner, and a paper towel and some water. It's been chipping off the like whatever the paint covering the bathtub, and these things are not okay. And then there's also other issues where like there's a fan in the bathroom, like there's a vent, sorry, in the bathroom, which does not have a fan. It does not ventilated. But the smells, the air from other people's bathrooms, other apartments' bathrooms, comes in and fills the entire apartment. So the apartment smells like cigarettes, it smells like weed, it smells like cat litter, and like cat litter that has not been cleaned in much too long. And it smells like, of course, other people's feces. Um, and so there's also that needs to be fixed because that is very bad ventilation. Um, and then I do not use bleach on the bathtub, no. And even if I did, it's a bathtub. I should be able to bleach it. Um, like bathroom bleach, obviously, not clothing bleach. And also just the hallways and the stairwells are disgusting. There's that too. Um, and so yeah, we're just working on a strongly worded letter to the building, talking about that stuff and that is not acceptable and that they need to get a handle on that because firstly we're going to spend a lot of money, like the walls, the paint peeling is because what they do, instead of cleaning stuff off the walls, they they just paint over everything. So there's like just lumps where there was like, I don't even know, some kind of dirt or like boogers or whatever people put on the walls. I'm making assumption there. Like there's a nail that I can see in the wall that looks like it's covered by like at least 2 coats of paint here. Um and then there's some holes in the wall that didn't get filled by the paint, right? Like they didn't fill all the holes. And then there's parts of the walls which are very like bumpy around like where the light switches are, because that's kind of like an edge of painting. And they use like paint, like it's cracking because the paint is so thick there near the light switch, like because they didn't properly kind of paint around the light switch. They just kind of painted up to the edge and left that kind of lump of paint, the thicker section of paint, so many times that there's just a big chip in near a lot of the light switches. Of course, these are things that we didn't see when we moved in, or I'm only starting to notice them right now, but they're really annoying. Yes, also give me money because I'm poor and it's going to take a lot of money to fix this apartment. Obviously, I am trying to actually get them to do it out of their own pocket. No, nail is in hardware. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure your assumption's correct. But like, it's just like, why not pull the nail out and then paint over it so that you get a flat wall? Like, are they really this lazy? Like, I know it's a cheap apartment, but it's not my fault that I'm poor, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I know that socially, people who are poor are treated like it's their fault that they don't have like the whatever, but it really isn't. It's the way you were born, and like it's what you were born into, and then it's the opportunities that you've had. And statistically, you're not likely to get rich. Um, it's safe to think that the landlord is aware of the problems, but just let them know so they know you know. So they know, I know, they know, I know, they know, they know, they know, I know. Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. The two have very different reactions that I have to choose. Yeah, no, it would have been really easy. Like, and there are definitely like they could have just wiped down the wall and the paint would stick, but they didn't. And also the paint, it's like it's not even smooth. It feels like sandpaper. It's weird. Like, I don't know why the paint is so rough, but it's like I like brush against the wall and I'm like, oh, that was like sandpaper on my skin. Why isn't it like smooth, right? What kind of paint are they using? I mean, that's not so much of a complaint, but like, well, it's not nice, but it's not so much of just like an issue. It's just like you couldn't even use like paint, because like the fact that it's rough means that if I try and like if anything gets on it, it sticks, right? It's not the kind of paint that you can easily just wipe down and wash stuff off of. Maybe it's primer paint. Yeah, it could be just primer. It wipes off when wet. Oh. 1 second. So I have these little like they're like little scrubby pads. Or not even, they're basically just like wet cloth. Wet paper towel cloth. I think. Yeah. So these are made for like cleaning walls and floors and doing like a light clean. They don't have bleach in them. Obviously, I'm touching them with my hands. They're just meant to kind of pick up dirt. So I'm gonna like do a little test swatch right here and see if it'll actually like come off if I like rub at it, because it's definitely been chipping in the places where it's definitely not adhered to the walls. It definitely changes color, but I've had other paints do that. And then they dry and they're back to the normal color. And they definitely wouldn't have, Alright, so it doesn't, oh yeah, it is coming off. There's definitely, like, paint coming off onto this. So yeah, it looks like they just primed the wall without actually painting it. Because yeah, it's definitely, this is just, like, paint coming off onto this thing. So that mystery's been solved. Yep, it's coming off onto my finger as well when I rub it. Yeah, they use primer, no actual paint. Gio says I was in a fancy apartment once and they still dripped paint all in the bathtub. So you're supposed to use like a tarp, like paper or like just like plastic rather, just plastic to cover things, but they don't always do that. We had in my previous apartment, not the last one, but the one before it, the landlord had some people fix the ceiling and they got paint all over my things because I wasn't given enough time. He told me with 24 hours notice and I was out that day and I couldn't get home until like the next day. So I was like, no, do not have painters come in. They are going to damage my belongings. Give me time to move all of my belongings out of all of my rooms. And he said no. And apparently there was nothing I could do legally because he gave me 24 hours notice. Even though like I was far away. Um, and so they came in and they did the ceilings and they got dust all in my things and they got like whatever um filling medium in my things that they used to fill in the cracks, and they got paint all over my things as well. All over the floor too. It was over the landlord's stuff, but the landlord but they ruined a lot of nice dresses that I had because they couldn't just wait. The landlord couldn't just wait, and I couldn't, do anything about it. Like I could have. Like drop cloths take time and they're lazy. Exactly. Yeah. So just because you're in a nice place, just because also like my mom is rich, right? Like I'm not. She's doesn't help me out in any way, but she has a lot of money. I mean, she helps me out a tiny bit. She buys me shoes every so often. I don't want to like lie, but yeah, she really doesn't help me out like in any real way, in any real impactful way. But she's rich. She, I mean, contractors are just horrible. Like really, it's often it's the contractor's fault. In this case, I believe the contractors are like the building's contractors, so they like are associated with the building. Can I sue for damage? Yeah, if I had the money to sue. Um, but yeah, they it's the contractor's fault usually. In this case, it wasn't really the contractor's fault because they had to work around my things, which should have been moved because I should have had time to move them. Um, like the contractors were like, "You've had 2 weeks to do this," and I was like, "I have had 24 hours of not being home to do this." that and they're like, well, your landlord scheduled this, and I'm like, oh, my landlord did not notify me until 24 hours because he didn't need to, right? So yeah, I could have sued him if I'd had the money to sue him, but most people who live in apartments with shitty landlords don't really have that kind of money. Gotta run, little Miss Sunny. Thank you so much for coming. We will see you again soon. Great meeting you, and thank you for the follow. I do stream every day, by the way. I don't have a time schedule, but I do stream every like 24-ish hours. Um, Sherby says, funny thing is, no matter where you go, most landlords can be lazy. Not saying all are, but some are, especially the ones that charge low prices for their units because they can't be bothered to make nicer units to get more money, and they can't be bothered to make their units nice enough even for the people who live in them to just live comfortably like human beings, right? Um and like that's kind of thing. But yeah, it's not always the contractor's fault when it comes to painting. Or sorry, it's not always the landlord's fault when it comes to contractors. Some contractors are just awful. And it sucks when you're a tenant because you're kind of stuck in the middle, right? You can't really do much about it. Because the landlord's paying the contractors. If the landlord has an issue with the contractor, if it was like your own house or whatever, you would be paying the contractor. If you have an issue with the contractor, don't pay them until the issue is solved, or be like, hey, contractor, you ruined my thing. That's coming out of the money I'm going to pay you. You can take the contractor to court. But when it comes to living in an apartment, you can't really, and I'm going to change the cameras here. You can't really like you don't have that direct line, you know, even if the contractors are coming and messing up your stuff, it's like, but the landlord is the one paying them, so the landlord doesn't care if the contractor messes up your stuff sometimes, often, usually, right? Like if I had a contractor come into my house and they like dripped paint all over, I would be like, no, I'm not paying you. You are paying for the damages you caused. Uh, Whereas if I had a like, whereas, you know, my landlord doesn't care that my stuff is damaged. So my landlord's going to pay the contractors. And also, since it's not their house, the landlord's going to get the cheapest, shittiest contractors that they can because they aren't worried about what kind of a job they'll do as long as the landlord can kind of say, well, I hired contractors, and if the contractor is messed up, it's not my fault. Because that was a thing, right? The fire department had come in. That was why they were redoing the ceilings. Because the fire department had to come in from like a carbon monoxide alarm, and they inspected the unit and they saw the ceiling and they were like, the ceiling is not not up to code, you need to fix it. So the landlord just got the crappiest contractors he could, and he so that he could basically just say, now there's a record, you know, if it's not up to code, blame the contractors, not me, basically. I mean, at least he didn't try one of those like eviction uh because not up to code, and then, you know, but like he was very, but you know, like that, it's not like what he did was much better. Smiles. It's been 2 seconds, Sherby. Where have you gone? Keeping time. It sounds as though my roommate's home. I can hear him. Now, I think that or the people upstairs are being uncharacteristically noisy. I'm having him go out and get me groceries, which I super appreciate. He's the best roommate. Um, Yeah, I need vinegar, a lot of vinegar. I go through it very quickly, much more quickly than anybody who like just likes the taste of vinegar would. Because I like um, vinegar is used as a mordant in yarn dyeing, specifically like wool and other animal fibers. Um, need to be dyed with acid. The acid, I think it kind of just like opens up the yarn for so that it like absorbs the color. I don't know actually how it works, but it makes the color stick. It makes the color actually go into the wool and not come out. Uh, so I go through it like I got like a 4 liter bottle of it, and I went through it in like a week or two. Which is really quick for vinegar, you know. I don't know anyone who eats it that fast. So I've broken like 2 threads in this area of the warp. These 2 threads that would be going through the middle here. And because I've kind of broken both of those threads, that means that I would have like 3 threads all kind of together. So I'm actually just taking one of them and making it be up. Like I'm just manually making sure, even though the shuttle would normally go over this one, I'm making sure the shuttle goes under it, so that then it just kind of has a better weave structure up until I can reattach the yarn as it's meant to be. I do have another thread like around here that looks like it's going to break real soon. Unfortunately, it's really not the smoothest going project, but I don't hate it. I think it is fun and nice, very colorful, and I'm loving weaving with my Handspun. There are just certain adjustments that need to be made when doing so, so as to not, so as to kind of make it easier and nicer product. Down shed, and then maybe a little better. So I am watching, still I'm watching The Boys. I've been talking about that. It's really fun. It's like a superhero movie where like there aren't really any good guys. There are definitely like characters you root for more than others, but I find that like none of them really are that great, you know. Morally gray characters. But yeah, I like the show a lot. I've gotten to I think the 4th episode I finished of the 3rd season, which means that I have 1 more episode to watch before I'm caught up. And then I think that on Friday is when they release a new episode. So maybe I'll just watch episode 5 and 6 on Sunday or on Friday. I don't know. Or maybe I'll watch it before so that I can just watch them as they come out now. Either way, I'm excited for the show. It's really a lot of fun. Very gory and bloody for sure. Yeah. This fabric, like I'm really liking the fabric that I'm making. The edges are a little loose, so I don't know if you guys can't really see it that well. But the weft, this yarn that I'm bringing back and forth is honestly like a little bit kind of loose on the edges. But I like that. I usually when I weave it ends up being too tight on the edges. Um, but at least if it's loose on the edges, I can just kind of cut off the excess and hem it. If it's too tight on the edges, on the other hand, I just have to cut off like the entire edge and make it a lot narrower, right? In order to make it all kind of a balanced weave. So I much prefer it being kind of too loose. That's fine. It still ends up giving me more fabric to work with in the end. So that is usually my goal, and I don't usually manage it. So I'm happy that I've been able to kind of hit that goal with this project and actually have loose edges, meaning that I'm able to make the most of all of the warp threads instead of having to waste some of them, because that's a lot of yarn if I have to kind of either waste it or just call part of it the selvage, and then it has a different texture, different tightness to the rest of it. It just doesn't, it's not as nice. And I cannot wait to see what this looks like finished or washed. Because it does usually change at least a little bit in texture once you wash it. Because right now it is looking very kind of like very transparent. Like I can see through all the stitches, see between all the threads, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I don't find it to be what is most ideal. And yeah, if I'm taking the scissors to it, I'm not actually cutting any of the threads. I'm just kind of cleaning up the little bits that are getting caught in between the threads. Little fuzzy bits, of which there are many. Hopefully I won't cut any of the actual warp threads. It's always possible that I'll accidentally miss. That one goes down. My weaving is very Saori style, or at least I believe it is. Saori weaving, invented in Japan. The story is kind of that the inventor of Saori weaving was weaving for a company. She was doing like a commission, so like she had to make the same scarf 100 times or something like that. And what she had done is she had messed up and forgotten to, or accidentally not threaded one of her warp threads. And she really loved the way that this looks. So she went to her boss and she's like, "Boss, look at this cool effect that, this mistake has created." And her boss said, "Well, we can't sell that. It's got a mistake in it. It's garbage." And so she thought about it, and I unfortunately I do not remember her name, but she thought about it, and she basically made her own sort of school of weaving that she called Saori. Usually it's like translated to free weaving. I think that it can also be translated to like individual weaving, although that doesn't sound quite as nice. And the concept is basically that the mistakes are a feature. The mistakes are what makes it beautiful. You know, if you make the same thing a million times, sure, it might be nice, but it's not as freeing and it's not as personal as making something that's either free-formed, yes, sorry, exactly spelled that way, but it's not as lovely as making something that's either free-form or that has those kind of personal touches, whether intentional or unintentional. That those are what makes it beautiful, right? And I love that. I love that ethos. Not sure that everyone who does celery completely abides by that, but I do love that that is kind of that's what I kind of see in it, right? And I love that ethos, and so I always take that kind of concept and ethos into my weaving. If I drop a warp thread, it is fine because I can just fix it when I get further in, as long as the fabric looks like fabric, as long as it functions as fabric, then why do I care whether it is, you know, perfectly homogeneous all the time? I like it better when it's got its own flaws. I don't know about better, but I like the process better. The process is more enjoyable. To say, oh, hey, I made a mistake here. Let's not go back and try and make it invisible or non existent. Instead, let's work with it and accept it. You will not see any of the mistakes in this, in the finished piece. Like, that's one thing that I can guarantee is that maybe if you like sit down and go through every single warp thread or something like that, you'll be able to find it eventually. But if I'm wearing this, you know, you won't be able to tell the differences between an inconsistency because I've broken a warp thread or an inconsistency because the yarn was just a little bit thicker or thinner there. Like, it won't be obvious. And, you know, that's what I like about it. That's what I like about that ethos is just that I don't have to worry, you know. Obviously, if there's a visual mistake, visible mistake, then I am going to try to fix it, especially if there's a structural mistake, then I'm definitely going to try and make sure that's structural mistake, but that's my choice. I'm not doing that because I feel that I need to. I'm doing that because that will achieve the result that I want, right? If there's like something wrong with my knitting, where it's, or weaving rather, where it's going to start kind of unraveling or falling apart, then I'll want to fix that because I want it to stay together so that I can have a garment out of it, a functional garment. But if there's a part of my weaving that's just, you know, oh look, there's a, you know, a pill there, or a little, you know, the yarn's too thick in that part, who cares? Excuse me. Or even if somebody does care, I don't. And it's my project. And I hope that whomever, you know, if I do ever sell any of my work, I would hope that the people that buy that have the same kind of idea of like, as long as it's beautiful, it doesn't need to be perfect, right? As long as I find it beautiful, I'll make it, and as long as you find it beautiful, I hope that you will enjoy it, regardless of any flaws or mistakes. Because that's kind of part of what makes it unique. It makes it one of a kind. That's what makes it special. One thing I can say about this weaving is that wow, it takes some time. Takes some time to finish, or just to even just to weave like an inch. It takes a lot longer than I'm used to. I don't usually use quite such thin yarn. No complaints, just yeah. 2 more threads. That's what I'm complaining about. I don't really, I'm not worried when I break the threads. I'm like, it'll still be beautiful, but it's not, you don't want to break threads, you know, it's annoying and a little stressful. This one's almost ready to reattach, actually. I think I'm going to do that. Where's my needle? I dropped my needle on the floor. Reattach this one. This one comes by this way and goes through there. And then it goes in between those threads. And yeah, and I think that honestly, when it comes to knitting, weaving, any sort of fiber art, spinning, crochet, etc., I think part of the skill of crafting is knowing which mistakes should be fixed, which mistakes, you know, can be ignored, and then which mistakes need to be like frogged to repair, right? Because some mistakes like this, you can just, you know, leave it until it's long enough and then do a fairly simple repair. Some mistakes, you know, like with knitting, sometimes you just can ladder down. You don't have to undo all of your work. You know, some mistakes, it doesn't even matter. You know, you won't notice it on the finished product. And some mistakes you need to just unravel everything, because there's absolutely no way that the final product will be worth the effort that you've put into it unless you fix this mistake, right? So there's kind of like 3 different severities almost of mistake. And I think part of being like a successful or experienced crafter is really about, you know, knowing the difference and knowing what you personally are comfortable with leaving in your own work versus removing, and versus repairing without too much extra time being spent. It's like this warp thread repair is a very easy repair. There are other ways to kind of prevent there from being any part of the weaving that has a broken warp thread. But that sounds like a lot of trouble, and I genuinely don't think it's worth it for most fabrics. Sometimes it might be, like, there is an exception to every rule. But yeah. I try to have a more relaxed. This one can be woven in. I try to have a more relaxed opinion of the mistakes. Where's the missing bit? Is here? Yeah. Okay. And yeah, I knew from the start that it would have been better to have a 3-ply yarn for the warp, because I knew that would have been stronger. But I chose a 2-ply because I wanted it to be thinner, and I knew that I would have to be repairing threads in the way that I am. So this was all planned, you know, it's not ideal. But it was what I chose because it's kind of the best way to get what I wanted. And once it is fabric, it'll be decently strong. So yeah, we make compromises, right? I can compromise, kind of have a more difficult project by having a weaker warp. I can choose to make that compromise. because the fabric that results is going to be closer to what I want. Is going to be the kind of fabric that I want. And I know this part of the process isn't great for streaming because you can't really see what I'm doing with my needle. I'm really just going over and under threads in between the two threads that are on either side of this one until this is like gone in for like maybe 3 inches, 3+ inches, and then that should have enough friction to kind of hold it where it's meant to be. All right, there we go. We're going to start with down shed, up shed. Read an article last time I was doing this. I need to keep remembering to bring this single thread up and down as well until I can reattach the yarns that are meant to be on either side of it. Wait, neither of these is long enough right now. Too bad. That one's almost long enough. Yeah, I have about, well, how many broken threads do I even have right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 threads. Which isn't that many. Like, I have about 200 threads total. So 7 out of 200 is like less than 5% of them. But you want to have 0 broken threads, ideally. Gio says, sorry I'm so quiet tonight. No, Gio. That's alright. It's not your job to make conversation. However, if you do want to talk about a specific thing, absolutely free to join in. Yeah, no need to apologize. That's the 8th thread that has now been broken, or that is currently rather broken and hasn't been fixed yet. It's too bad. Don't like that. Usually typing at a mile a minute. That's all right. You got stuff to do. You're busy spinning, if I'm not mistaken. Excuse me. I'm here focusing on this, and I'm like, should I be talking more? Really excited for this to get done because I want to know how much fabric I have. Like, I'm pretty impatient to actually see, like, in the end, like, how much fabric do I actually have to work with here. Because I don't know. I think I'll have enough for a shirt, but there's a good chance I won't. And yeah. I'm like, I want to know. I want to know. Do I have enough yarn? Oof, I lost another thread. Great, not great. You ordered some of those Keep Cool towels. What about heat might be rough this year, yeah? Oh, I don't know. I'm not bad with heat. I'm certainly not good with it, you know? All right, you know what? I have a few. Let's see if that'll work. So I have a few threads that were broken because I messed up and actually ended up making like a huge knot in the project in the skein rather. So I'm wondering if I can't even just recycle these because these yarns I had to cut in order to untangle it. I wonder if I couldn't use them to repair some of the broken warp threads. Of course, the color would be different a little bit, but perhaps I'm going to use one of the shorter ones. Go up here, tie a nice slip knot here. Kind of figure out which one it goes to. Probably this one. More to the left of it, so I guess this one, right? And follow that up to here. Grab the needle if I know where it is, which I don't. There. Oh, you know what? I shouldn't have tied that there yet. I think I know how to do it. Porous rags, and you get them damp and you put them on you. Oh, and then they help with heat. Very cool. That makes a lot of sense. If someone has like a fever or something and you want to cool them down, then you want to put a damp rag on their forehead, right? Makes sense that that would work just for heat in general. Kind of figuring out the technique for this, but I think it's kind of like you want to make sure you got enough length that there's like a lot of friction, right? That maybe, oh, it feels like really not frictiony. Feels like it's really sliding around in there, so I'm gonna keep going with the weaving in and out and in and out, and hope that at some point I've accumulated, you know, enough friction between threads that it's not gonna slide in. I think that's good. Not great, but hopefully good. Get that between here, and then just give it, let's go here and kind of form a knot and then tie it in a bow. That's gonna be the thing I do with this. Further up. Oh, nice. What kinds of jobs are you looking for, Smiles? Oh boy, it's getting warm in here. Speaking of the heat. Control irrigation to a 7-acre farm. What? Oh, that's an interesting, like that's a very specific. area. Interesting. I feel like this one's too short to be useful. Okay, how about this one? Just long enough. Okay. Makes sense. 5 miles is not too far, while still being a decent amount of area to cover, as long as you live in an area that has, you know, a decent, job saturation. I know some areas it's like all rural or like all houses, right? But yeah, makes sense. Sounds like a great plan. Actually, why am I going in that way? I could be going up this way. I think that'll be easier, I think. Well, so yeah, I've just changed my technique a little bit. So now instead of just leaving the warp threads when they break, I'm actually repairing them like as soon as they break. A little bit more work, but hopefully will make a slightly nicer fabric, slightly less problematic fabric. That's one of the reasons that it's usually good to keep, if you are weaving and you have like kind of a limited amount of yarn, to keep some of your warp yarn. Don't use it all. Keep a few meters of it just in case you do need to do any warp repairs. Better safe than sorry. So again, I'm gonna tie that in a knot and then tie it in a bow. Slipped out. Ah, darn it. Okay. We'll tie that to there. Tie it in a bow. And it's, little trickier than expected, I suppose. Maybe the other way that I was doing it was better. I'm not sure. We'll see. This is definitely taking a bit longer. That should be good. Yeah, so that took too long. I think I am just going to kind of continue the project, kind of repairing it as it comes instead of repairing it every time there's a something. What am I trying to say? Plain English, please, Dev. I'm going to repair it when I'm able to repair the actual thread rather than by adding on extra threads. I think the adding on extra thread technique is good when it comes to like being a way to in terms of like being a way to if I cared a little bit more about it being like consistent and perfect, I would likely use that technique. But because I'm not too worried about that and I know that it won't show in the finished, then I'm not going to go through the extra effort. I'm just going to reattach them as it becomes sort of possible to do so, rather than kind of trying extra hard. Because that's unnecessary. It's too much effort. I don't need to use all that effort. It's nice that I did reattach. I think if I reattach threads, it's only going to be in a place where it'll be like noticeable. So that is what I did. It would have been noticeable if I had let those threads remain broken, because there were kind of like too many near to each other that were broken. But I don't need to worry about that now. And yeah, from now on, it's only going to be that same kind of thing. If one breaks in like a cluster of broken ones, there are like 2 or 3 broken threads beside each other, then I'll fix that. But otherwise, I won't. Oh, don't want to intentionally break anything. Or, carelessly break anything. There is this pink thread here, which hopefully this won't break or anything. It does need to be pulled out a little. Just a little more tension for it. There we go. But yeah, good luck with the job search, Smiles. It'd be really hard to find a good job. A job that doesn't take parts of your soul. So best of luck with that. Oh wow, I somehow got like a blister or something on my fingertip. That's catching on the yarn. I'm being generally unpleasant. But yeah, I realized that this yarn is actually a somewhat of an easier spin, I think, than the other one. When I start, maybe it's just switching back and forth, because when I started this spin, instead of the Shetland one that I was doing previous, I found this one to be trickier. But now going back to the Shetland, I'm like, oh, this one's actually pretty tricky. I wonder if I just got kind of like a bad part of the fiber or something, or if it's just one of those grass is always greener, rose-colored glasses, because I'm not doing it now, it feels like it was easier. Either way, I am enjoying the spin. I just have to probably get into the swing of it a little. Alright, it is almost time to advance the warp. I'm trying to procrastinate doing so, but basically, like, it's not good weaving if I'm too close. Like, the edge of the fabric is here right now. This is where this is where I've woven to so far, is just here. And the closer the edge of the fabric gets to the heddle, the harder it is to maneuver. So we don't want that. But we do want, but every time I advance the warp thread's tension gets just a little bit different. Some are slightly looser, some are slightly tighter. And so I have to deal with that. So I'm like, I don't want to advance it yet. I want to kind of weave as much space. And you can actually tell I'm getting kind of tense about that, because for the first time in this project, I've started to actually, the edges are going in. I'm too much tension on my weaving. So I'm going to have to relax and focus on my edge tension, because that's important to me for this project. Hey, Cheviot, if you ever get your butt in skirt more, no hurry, Gio. I have so much yarn, so much wool rather, that I have to get through. I have 2 full fleeces and then a number of partial fleeces. So I'm not in a hurry. So you don't need to be either. I found actually, I don't think that I can name drop the farm, but I found a farm that has a very nice sort of fleece, um, fleece scoring system, fleece rating system. They have the length of the fleece, how strong the fleece is, how clean the fleece is, and how I'm not sure. But like they have a really good kind of scoring system for fleeces. So you know exactly what you're getting. You know kind of what they think is the better quality ones and what are the worst quality ones. So once I've gotten through all of my fleeces, including the ones that you're intending to send me, um, maybe then I'll look at this farm and maybe buy one.